Selfish sister scheduled her baby shower. On my wedding day, expecting support, but karma struck as family chose my wedding over hers. I've come here to vent because I'm angry about the incident that happened a few days ago. The fact that my older sister, Portia, 30F, has a lot of main character energy irritates me in every manner. Since I've never been one to start arguments or drama, this has been the standard in both her and my lives, and I've usually never voiced my objections or said anything. But when she chose to throw her fourth child's baby shower on the same day as my wedding, it all came to a head. Naturally, I was devastated to learn of it just a few days prior to the wedding. I knew this small coincidence, as she described it, was intentional on her part because I had forced my family to RSVP to the wedding date months in advance. All it did was make me want to tear out her hair or mine. Since my family has always done things that way, I had a persistent suspicion that they would choose to attend her baby shower rather than my wedding. For as long as I can remember, she has always been the golden child, and I have always been the afterthought. I had hoped that this day would be about me, but I knew she was going to steal even this day from me because of her baby shower. I don't have the finest relationship with Porsche, 25F. I would largely blame Portia's attitude and haughtiness, but I would also credit my parents' upbringing. In school, Porsche was an overachiever. She participated in sports, excelled academically, and was well liked by her peers and instructors. Her parents were quite proud of her. That being said, I was only mediocre. Academically, I wasn't very good, but I wasn't awful either. My parents said that I had no relevant hobbies, and the fact that I attended the same school as my sister only made this worse. Because I was so different from Porsche, not just in attitude, but also in abilities, all of my teachers, including the principal, used to be pretty shocked that we were sisters. We were compared all the time, and I was never good enough. My parents were not pleased with my lack of abilities. My favorite kid was Portia. Because she was a bright child, she was treated, pampered, and had everything done for her. As a child, I was informed unequivocally that if I become as good as Porsche, my parents would treat me the same way. Because of my early years, I have a number of psychological problems with self-worth, which have negatively affected my quality of life. I knew by the time I was 13 that I would never be able to have a healthy and productive relationship with my family. I simply stopped interacting with the family after accepting that as my reality. I stayed in my room, largely kept to myself, and drew for hours on end. No one ever took it seriously, and it was the only true pastime I had. In a sense, I was the extra family member. Always an afterthought, never left alone, and always viewed with disdain or disdain because I was not good enough for my parents. Because I was too preoccupied scribbling to work hard and be a source of pride for the family like my sister, my mother even tore one of my sketch pads, calling me a scribbler. At that moment, I realized that no matter what I accomplished, they would only regard me as a smaller version of Portia and that I would never be able to compete with her, even if I tried, and I didn't want to. I simply ceased communicating with them as much as possible. Portia changed when she went off to college when I was 13. She had changed from being the good girl our parents had brought up. Without a doubt, she continued to do well, but she wasted money like crazy, refused to return home, and never answered their calls. My parents, I suppose, were affected by all of this and felt secluded and alone. After being parents to a single child for 18 years, the child suddenly showed little interest in them. That's when they started looking at me. They made an effort to bond with me and become closer, but I didn't want anything to do with it. I had been accustomed to being alone myself, so all of this attention only made me feel anxious. My parents wanted to play happy families, so I wasn't going to change the long period it had taken me to learn how to live alone. This infuriated them, and my situation worsened. They were always insulting me or yelling at me, and I could no longer stand it. Before attending college, I somehow made it through the following several years. Since then, I haven't had much communication with them. I can say that all of that doodling paid off because I have a degree in animation. I'm doing well for myself and got a decent job right out of college. I feel even more smug about the whole situation because this is not what anyone, especially my sister and parents, anticipated of me. Over the past 2 to 3 years, they have made numerous attempts to contact me in an attempt to become closer to me and other such things, but I have consistently graciously turned them down. I am more than content with the small family I have created for myself and no longer feel the need for them in my life. I reside with our adorable dog, Emma, and my fiancé, Edward, 29 months. I don't want them to interfere with my wonderful life, friends, or social circle. Before I started working, Porsche got married a few years ago. I was obviously not invited. This is also one of the reasons I don't think their efforts to get back in touch are very sincere. When I was just a student, they didn't give a damn about me, But now that I'm successful, they're trying to be family and make amends. I am not one to be duped by their evil mask, and I can see right through it. I suspect that they are merely trying to reconnect with me in order to take advantage of me. She got pregnant immediately after graduating from college, had a shotgun wedding, and has never received a dime since because Porsche doesn't work. The family had always assumed that since she was the smart one, she would be the one making the money and that I would fail. They are attempting to patch things up so that I can be their cash cow now that there is no chance of her giving them any money. Since the day I was born, my parents have been like this. My extended family has improved significantly. Throughout my childhood, my Aunt Rachel, who has constantly criticized my parents for their partiality, was like a mother figure to me. Naturally, these accusations were strongly refuted, but over time, the entire extended family learned the truth. They have encouraged me to maintain minimal communication, and no one has put much pressure on me to mend fences with my relatives. Up until around 3 months ago, my mother experienced a pretty significant health crisis. The diagnosis was difficult, and she spent weeks in the hospital. Since then, her quality of life has suffered greatly, and the doctors have stated that it will take a long time for her to get back to her previous state, if she ever does. My aunt claims that this served as a wake-up call for my mother. She cried for me, her baby, the whole time she was in the hospital. Since we had little to no communication for a few years, I wasn't informed about her health problems right away. However, a week after the incident, my aunt called to inform me that my mother was very ill and had come to the understanding that she had not treated me well. My mother has been crying non-stop since that day, pleading with me to contact her again because she knows she will die soon and doesn't want that to happen before I give her another chance to be a decent mother. I had struggled with this because I knew in my heart that my mother's desire to make amends stemmed solely from her need to avoid taking the blame for mistreating her own kid. It had less to do with me and more to do with her remorse. However, I was also aware that I would regret not speaking with her or at the very least getting in touch with her again. So, after giving it some serious thinking and receiving a lot of encouragement from my aunt and my fiancé, I made the decision to try it again and contact her. For us, it was emotional. She shed many tears and apologized profusely, but I simply told her to forget it and that I no longer wanted to discuss or interact with her about it. My father and I didn't speak for more than a few words since he wanted to be polite and is too proud to own his mistakes. During this brief reunion, Porsche was not present, and I later learned that this was at our mother's wish. During our conversation, Mom had strongly disputed Porsche's presence, and I've heard she was really upset about it, but she was unable to stop it. And now for the real thing. After the first few meetings, I must admit that I did not have much time for my mother because I was so busy with all of my wedding preparations. I could have, but I also wanted some leisure and was too stressed out from the heavy workload. Even after our alleged reconciliation, my parents were angry that I had not included them in the wedding planning process or assigned them any of the customary responsibilities that the bride's parents are expected to fulfill. Even though my mother was unhappy about the whole thing, she decided to ignore it, which is when I started to think that perhaps she was truly sorry. In contrast, my father was furious that he would not be the one to accompany me down the aisle. He even gave me a call to let me know that I was making him look like a bad father in front of everyone, so he was thinking of skipping the wedding. I informed him that nothing had returned to normal, particularly between us, even after everything had. He was also allowed to do anything he chose, which included not going, if he thought this was too offensive. That immediately silenced him, and he remained silent thereafter. I didn't communicate with her at all during this period regarding Porsche. She indicated that she would be attending, and I had just sent out the invitations. I reasoned that there was nothing else to discuss with her. But I was going to have a big surprise. My cousin Lena called me in a panic 2 weeks prior to my wedding. She told me that she was speaking with Porsche, and that Porsche had asked her to attend her baby shower in the same city, on the same day as my wedding, at a location she had reserved an hour away. It seems that she was phoning folks to the baby shower without really sending out invitations because she was afraid I might hear about it. Lena said that she was positive and that some other family members had already received the invitation when I asked her whether she was certain about it and if she might have been wrong. Additionally, she was allegedly making a big deal out of it, claiming that she wanted everyone to come because this was her and her husband's last child and that it mattered even more to her. I was incensed when I learned. I questioned her whether this was real over the phone right away. She claimed that she believed it was the greatest way to incorporate our enjoyment because she knew she wouldn't be able to bring the whole family together until after my wedding. I should be happy that her baby gets to celebrate and attend my wedding in spirit, she stated. Since she did it on my wedding day, not even a day before or after, I told her that she was insane and a spiteful witch. I also reminded her that she should have inquired or notified me if she truly had good intentions. Just 2 days before my wedding, I was learning about it from someone else, which revealed to me what she was planning to do and how insane she was. She informed me that she was free to celebrate her baby whenever she pleased, that I had no right to call her names, and that I had no control over the date or what other people chose to do. She asserted that I had no authority to prevent guests from attending her baby's shower or traveling to my wedding if they so desired. I hate to confess it, but I had a full-blown mental breakdown and was completely at a loss for words. I simply couldn't handle the facts and was inconsolable. Even though he was angry, Edward, who was with me, knew just what to say. We made the decision that everyone we had invited would receive a note. We made an effort to appear as kind as we could, and the message said something like how we discovered that the dates had conflicted. Although we were pleased for Porsche, we were aware that some of our guests would have to choose between going to the baby shower and the wedding. Additionally, we informed them that we were not in the mood for any more drama with only 2 weeks left until the wedding and asked them to confirm their attendance with my maid of honor. The wedding is where I would see them. I instructed my maid of honor to record everyone who confirmed their attendance so that we could modify the catering and other arrangements appropriately. We would simply go to the courts and be married if everyone decided to come to the baby shower. Although it may seem like an exaggeration, I was certain that most people would prefer to attend her baby shower over my wedding because I had been ignored my entire childhood. I'm happy I was shown to be mistaken. I asked Zara, my maid of honor, 2 days prior to my wedding, if anyone had confirmed what the current situation was. She simply assured me that everything was under control and that I shouldn't worry about it. I still didn't know how many people had left me for Portia, so her response was not at all reassuring. She simply told me to relax and that she would handle everything. I was shocked to see nearly every member of my family who I had invited on the wedding day, with the exception of Portia, of course, my father, who I had presumed, and my paternal aunt and her family. My mother, who is not the kind to do things without my father, was one of the people who made it, which surprised me greatly. The actual wedding proceeded according to plan, and I must admit that I was relieved my father wasn't attending. He would have created needless drama and pouted the entire time. I was therefore rather relieved that he was not there. Portia, however, was unable to tolerate this affront against her, especially since she was not accustomed to it. I noticed Dad and Portia arriving at the location as my ceremony was nearing to a conclusion and everyone was leaving for lunch. Zara stood up and prevented them from entering the building before I could say anything. Even though I couldn't fully understand what they were saying, I could tell that they were arguing and that the argument was becoming more heated by the moment. Portia even attempted to force her way inside at one point, and Zara did her best to keep her out, but my dad also forced through, and their combined might was too great for her. She burst into tears like a pampered child the moment Portia entered. It was real crying, like a baby, not just a few stray tears here and there. Seeing it was so repulsive and unpleasant. I was embarrassed because she was acting in such a way in front of Edward's family, our friends, and our co-workers, even though I knew my family was aware of her shenanigans. She insisted that I should have had the grace to postpone my wedding when I knew she was throwing her baby shower, and that everyone had come to my wedding rather than her final one. Before I could respond, Rachel claimed that she was the one who had stolen the wedding date, which I had decided upon months prior. She would have been the one to move her baby shower to a different day if she had any common sense. Portia glanced at my dad for support because she didn't anticipate being called out in that manner, but he was strangely silent. At that point, Portia boldly asserted that although marriages fail frequently and that I might marry again, she was definitely not going to become pregnant again. I wanted to slap her in the face because I was so angry. At the time, I was shocked that she had the audacity to imply that my marriage might fail on my wedding day. By that point, I'd had enough and told her to leave the stadium immediately. I also informed her that she already had 3 children and that, given everything she has done since leaving college and spending all of Dad's money, there was no assurance she wouldn't continue to pop out. I interrupted her as she began to yell, telling her that she was a terrible person who only ever considered herself. I told her that I felt bad for her children since they had such a bad mother. She quickly stopped talking after that and began crying once more, but I couldn't stand it. She was physically hauled out of the venue by Zara and another friend of mine. She had destroyed my day, and by the time it was all over, I was crying and shivering. Nearly everyone ended their lunch early and left because of the uncomfortable environment. The thing that wounded me the most was that my mother never spoke up for me or informed me of Portia's plans during all of this time. Therefore, in my opinion, her reconciliation was a phony and an act because, even though she had the opportunity, she still failed to treat me fairly. Edward pulled me close and assured me that it wasn't my fault at all and that I would eventually hit my breaking point. I sobbed, hugged him, and apologized for spoiling the day after everyone had left. People have been contacting me for the past 5 days since our wedding, but I am not in the right frame of mind to reply. I know I will ultimately have to reply to all of the messages that are currently sitting in my inbox, but I don't want to do that right now. Tomorrow, we're heading out on our honeymoon, so I'm hoping I can get better and forget about whatever occurred. I can't let my disgusting sister spoil my honeymoon any more than she did my wedding, which I was unable to stop. Even after all these years, she still has no power to influence me in this way. Update 1. Hello, Reddit. During my honeymoon, I took a vacation from Reddit, which is why I haven't been updating. When I saw all of the comments, I was overwhelmed since I hadn't anticipated the post to become so popular, but I read them all. Here's a quick update because you're suddenly so interested in the narrative. Ed and I didn't really consider any kind of communication with my side of the family on our honeymoon. Despite my mother's repeated attempts to contact me, I just informed her that I will speak with her after returning from my honeymoon. Since then, she has called to apologize for not standing up for me at the wedding and to express her remorse, saying she wants to meet with me. She knew about the baby shower but chose not to tell me, so I explained that this was about more than simply the wedding. She said she hoped people would attend my wedding over the baby shower anyhow and didn't want me to be sad. I informed her that she had once again demonstrated her unreliability, particularly with regard to my sentiments and emotions, and that her presumptions did not justify what she had done to me. She apologized again, but I urged her to stop contacting me and that I needed some time apart from her. I told her that she had chosen to re-enter my life in order to show me that she was sorry, even though she attempted to use the "I'm sick" excuse. Her actions, however, have demonstrated the opposite to me, as she still chooses Porsche before me, even if it means ruining one of the most significant days of my life. I felt terrible for tearing into her as she was sobbing uncontrollably, but I knew I couldn't allow her to run all over me once more. I couldn't let her return with her similar antics and ruin everything because it had taken me years and years to feel mentally safe. I informed her that although I would be contacting her, I would do it at my own pace and that I did not want her to put any pressure on me to start dating her because it was obvious that she was not ready. I believe she thought she could use victimization to get me to give in, but when that didn't work, she handed the phone to Dad, whom I had no desire to speak to. I hung up the phone as soon as I heard him on the line. I blocked him when he wrote me a lengthy text that I didn't even bother to read. Other than that, I only received texts from family members expressing their regret that Porsche had attempted to overshadow me at my own wedding and essentially offering their support and sympathy. Even if I haven't answered them all, I will. Overall, the whole experience has made me feel a lot better, and I'm happy that I've broken off contact with my mother once more. I don't want my parents to destroy the family I've created for myself, and I don't have the energy to cope with them. Update 2. It's obvious that the drama is still going on, even though I had assumed it had ended. Jake, the spouse of Porsche, showed up at my house last night. I called him inside because he appeared rather forlorn and I didn't have the courage to turn him away. He apologized to me right away, claiming he was unaware Porsche had been plotting this. That's when I remembered that I didn't see Jake at my wedding for the entire episode. When I asked him what he meant, he explained that she had demanded that the date be changed because he had really scheduled Porsche's baby shower for a week after my wedding. She also explained to him that she wanted to hold the baby shower on the same day as the wedding because I hadn't invited them. He disagreed, saying that since we had been apart for a while, she shouldn't have been anticipating an invitation in the first place. He claimed that he would have been shocked if I had invited them and that he never tried to get clarification from me since he thought it was reasonable that I hadn't. He was embarrassed to learn the truth about what had truly transpired that day, and he only learned it because my mother informed him. He inquired if there was anything he could do to improve the situation overall and expressed his sincere regret, saying he wanted to apologize on her behalf. I informed him that his wife was an adult who was capable of accepting responsibility for her own conduct and that he had no need to apologize because he was not present. I told her that if she didn't apologize, it didn't mean anything and that she needed to learn to accept responsibility for her actions. I thanked him for getting in touch and assured him that I had nothing against him and that he seemed like a wonderful man. Although I think it was kind of him to visit and speak with us, his wife's actions still stand. To be honest, I am aware that I will not forgive her even if she were to apologize in the future. Now that she has dug her grave, she can rest in it. Update 3. Jake and Portia are on the verge of getting a divorce. It seems that they had been at odds for a while, and her actions at my wedding were the final straw. She has been running around accusing me of being the cause of her divorce, but I suppose that everyone has had enough of her shenanigans and is no longer prepared to put up with her self-pitying rant. It had been made clear that this would only be a temporary arrangement, but the last I heard, she was going to move in with Mom and Dad. She even contacted me to offer to watch her children for free, claiming that this would be my way of making amends for destroying her life. I don't want to get involved in this drama any longer, So I immediately blocked her everywhere. Although I am unaware of the specifics of their divorce, I am aware that Jake is attempting to obtain sole custody of all the children because he believes she gives them an unsuitable and unstable environment in which to grow up. Although I am unsure of the outcome of their divorce, I am aware that she is in tremendous difficulties and that no one is currently prepared to assist her. So, it's unclear what will happen. I've completely bowed out of this whole mess and, consequently, my family. That's all I know. I lived a quiet and contented existence before they made the decision to contact me again, and this is far more bother than they're worth. My Aunt Rachel and a couple of my cousins are the only members of my family who I currently choose to be around because they were there for me during the whole wedding disaster. I have the utmost gratitude for their unwavering support. I'm going to be extremely protective of my boundaries going forward since they are the only people who deserve to be in my life. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.